dear listener, I'm bored to tears, and that makes me really dangerous sometimes. Yeah, I've driven myself back into my specialist niche, and I'm really bored to tears, but this can be really dangerous if you understand it deeply. This is what makes your heart and your mind work. Okay, so I'll give you a little lecture on that so that you can see the dangers that my boredom represent to the criminal world.
Second lecture in a series of 3 on electrical signaling as part of the iBiology series. I'm very pleased to participate in this series, which puts together science in a way that is accessible to many people. So in this second lecture in the series, I'll say just a few words about electrical signaling processes at the beginning, and then move quickly to recent research which has shown us how voltage-gated sodium channels, the key molecules in electrical signaling, work at the atomic level. So this slide illustrates how action potentials, or electrical signals, are generated in a nerve or muscle.
As you have become aware, I'm trying to help Professor Catterall with the funding issues, and I would much rather, in retrospect, that you send your cheque to him and not to the Rothschild Trust in Auckland. Nobody ever gets punished for what they do in the Rothschild Trust sector. Uncle Bill is a relatively innocent man, and he understands the dangers of evil behaviours in human politics. Okay, let me just show you something that I dubbed on my Facebook wall the other evening, and I've not had the time to cover it in detail. It tells you a lot about local heroes like me and the local bastards that steal from the rest of the country. Yeah, and some of my relatives are on it, and when you open their pages, nothing at all appears. Okay, right then. So, just to alleviate my boredom, are you on Facebook, and are you an innocent person, or do you need me to give you a reminder of the dangers of stealing from the world's citizens? I'll leave Bill Catterall open in case I have to show you how quickly God can turn these things around. Yeah, those are the ion channels that make you conscious, that control your cardiovascular tone, that give you strokes, that make your heart beat regularly and rhythmically, and allows the blood to get into your periphery and between your ears. Okay, I'm keeping it simple, because when I'm bored, I like to try and engage the locals. And they've gone absolutely deathly quiet in the last few days. That's you, Lynn Somerville and the Freedom Fighters. Oh, sorry, that's Lynn Somerville that works along with people for our kingdom, and I should not be stern with her because she looks really innocent on the outside. Right then, so Facebook. Oh, I think we can go there in a relatively quick way. There we go. Facebook. And I'm quite stunned that none of the locals are now... Oh, there's a whiteboard. Oh, John's gotten back in touch with me. I checked out whether or not he was still alive last night, because on my own wall he has not posted anything for a long period of time, since I began to reveal my boredom and started to talk about Fred Goodwin at the RBS. Nobody wants to talk to me now. Okay, so there's my message that I sent to John, asking whether or not he was still active, or whether or not the police in Brighton had taken him out, or whether or not the people in Tel Aviv who are on his friends list have deserted him too. But no one. Oh, we've had 3 likes and 1 comment. Let's have a look at what the comment is. Also, John is engaged with the Able Danger team in Nottingham. Yeah, and my one true love in America has deserted me within a couple of days, and I don't know whether or not she's taken the cash, but she's not on the Interlocks that I use to alleviate my boredom. Okay, let's go down a bit. So there's the news on the SNP selling Scotland. Yeah, that cost me the woman Wallace's friendship on the Isle of Arran, which is the SNP headquarters for the double agents, and she's got a degree in rocket science from Harvard, and she's lovely to look at. Yeah, but she's unfriended me because I started to send things to her and the Duke of Roxburgh and the Tax Justice Network at the same time, dobbing entirely on Alex Salmond and Mrs. Sturgeon. I get really dangerous when I get bored. Okay, there's a song about laughing at all of the crime and nobody's capacity to take it on. It's sung by Frank Sinatra. There's the fundraising issues in the Christian Aid Week and the abuse of that young boy called Dave Allen, like Lily Allen and the other guy that makes the movies about the Hollywood profiteering, who is Woody Allen. Have you noticed the links? That is the Holy Trinity in the Allen sect. And we have a local man called Alan that takes us into diversionary cover-ups in Mombasa, and I'm very fond of him for his simplicity, and he is not on Facebook, and that makes me feel safe in his company. Right then, so Crawl, the death threat from Kev Moore, who may not be my MP. Yeah, all of my friends have stopped speaking to me, although two of them liked that. I think they were both from sectarian Ireland. And I think one of them was called Connell, like the Interlock. There's my plea to get in touch with this woman and her family, who are very well connected globally and know how to pick their heroes. Yeah, that's Mandelson in her history transcript. I am giving her a conscience. Yeah, and I'm hoping that she will wilt under pressure and begin to talk to me. Okay, here we have John Robertson Wright, and here this is very insightful. Okay, because this is the Interlocks of this man. I think I've done something to offend Lynn Somerville, but last night I was able to calm myself by studying this carefully. I may be able to coerce from neighbours and family Fred Goodwin's autograph. His vicious directorial details are listed below. Do the Kelso citizens remember Michael Pinder, the Roxy movie house owner? Yet he's now moved down south like John Patterson, and I don't know whether his police force currently wear white helmets, but I know that they deserve to get an accolade for what they do to the country's prosperity. Okay, and watching Winnie the Pooh at the Roxy Cinema, it is now in the hands of the much more innocent Italian mafia. Okay, I'll take you to John Robertson Wright's massive list of interlocks, and I've got 5 comments, and I dare not open them because some of them might be from my sister. And I could not open the website pages on Company Check for my sister's husband's name, but it may not be him, like Kev Moore that runs the Assassination Bureau out of Glasgow. Okay, there's a video I made which has been condoned by the whole of the free world on beheading, disemboweling, directorships in the UK and the local romanticism that is our daily news, and that is the disemboweling of William Wallace on screen with a couple of midgets in it, which is politically incorrect, and I dare not talk about that. There's my letter to Hillary Clinton before I got bored, and that's the video that got me shut down globally without any views at all on the whiteboard context. Yeah, and there's Brittany, who is the reason I got shut down, and there's Elton John, who has his babies in our stem cell program. And there I declare that I am a lapsed Catholic and I get guilt all the time, but when I'm bored I really have to let it out. Right then, let's go back up to this man, because he worships and he lives in Edinburgh. Yeah, which is in the Christian Bible, but I don't want to get into that because it could create division and debate. These are facts that this man has been quite happy to publish along with FRED GOODWIN, the Knight of the Realm, who's been disgraced for what he does with the locals. And I entirely understand all of the locals who are interlocked with him coming forward with me and showing that they are kind of penitent about it. Not necessarily the registered directors, but their family members, their in-laws and their children. I know how you feel. Yeah, but I'm going to fix it, and thank you for coming forward and letting me know that you're penitent. I've not seen Michael Pinder in years. But the Dawsons used to run the local paper. And they're married to the Easons, who are relatives of mine, and Nick Clegg's up in Glam's castle in that region where Scots are no longer allowed to roam. Okay, so this is a list of directors, and John has registrations with the Borders College as one of its directors in Dubai. He has links to the Arab UK Chamber of Commerce, but this time he's showing his sectarian side. His director number is 906 033 950. He's got the Robertson jam jar black man joke in his label. Yeah, and he's one of the richest people I know, certainly in Edinburgh. Registered address Farm Hill Road, Cultra, County Down, Northern Ireland, where sometimes we get rich people sparking ultra-violent events in the sectarian religious sector. But I feel obligated not to talk about that when I'm bored, because the Pope's sins are relatively minor and everybody understands them already. BT 18 OAD. Oh sorry, the Pope does genocide on the side, but that's before he comes to power, and when he comes to power he gets terrible lightning storms and limps. Right then, so Chuff Bass, Sir Mr. Stephen Michael Bown, the Palisters, yeah, the famous TV programme about big mansions before Downton Abbey came along. The Stirrups, Anthony Michael Murphy, and thank you to the man Murphy from the Channel Islands who now lives near Sandringham, which makes me nervous. Yeah, right next door to my niece. Yeah, and that's Sandringham, where Greg Hallett on Skype used to tell me about the shallow graves. But the man Murphy is on the Tax Justice Network, and he has refriended me since I got bored. Okay, there we have Mr. Frederick Anderson Goodwin. He's really interesting. He has crashed 37 of the 37 companies he ran along with the Scottish criminals in local regions. There's the golfer again. Yeah, okay, we've got Kenny's, Prices, Mulcahy's, Savages, but not in the Robertson black man joke. We've got McDonald's, Crows, Brennan's. They're quite revealing people when it comes to the Holocaust, and when you look at the design for Edinburgh House's front gates, it's just like the laundering centres for the Nazis out of Odessa, and that is really funny until bored people find it out. The Brennan books are horrific. It tells you about the real statistics on how many people were put in the fire pans after they'd had their heads shaved, and then they were burnt to a crisp in the ovens, which is the Baker joke and the Muller joke if you're German. There's the Dawson linkage, okay? 16 of 16 crashed way back in 1994 and 1995, when my dad used to have fights with the local director of the Southern Reporter, which was in the old days alleged to be a revolutionary paper called the Chronicle, so they had to shut it down as an anti-communist menace. John Dawson does not get along the pavements well nowadays, but his family and his surviving relatives and his in-laws are charming, and they talk to me all of the time. Even although when I got drunk in my old days and my younger days, I used to abuse them. Yeah, in an embracing context and on the issues of their vital statistics. Okay, so we've got Mr. John Robertson Wright. 29 of his companies crashed. Okay, he's the man that ties all of these people, including Mr. Michael Pinder, the cinema owner, which is now a joke about Italian restaurants and every product being part of the religious fraud or the political fraud or the world ownership fraud for all of human history. That's 2,000 years. We've got Mike Anderson, Fagans. You might have heard of them if you've tried to pick a pocket or two. Dennis's, Nicholson's. Yeah, like the people in Dunedin who were my bosses and used to give me a scolding after they changed the rules for our departmental inquest, and I took them to litigation, and I got a massive bung from them to try and keep me quiet, but I decided just to get bored instead. Okay, Catherine Maria James. No, not many very famous names. There's a McCall. We've changed the spelling of that one. Northern Bank Executor and Trustee Company Limited. You might remember Goodwin. He's the one who got in real trouble in 2008 and was sacrificed as a victim of these relatively small beer criminals in the RBS. Okay, Northern Bank Executor and Trustee Company, Donald Price, has crashed 25 of the 38, and they've got a Campbell in the team, and that's a legend for salting the water in Scotland, even in Jimmy Savile's Glencoe. So there's a Savage, there's Anderson again, there's Mervyn Moffat Brown. Yeah, that could be my mate Ali Moffat, the rector at St Andrews University. He's got massive directorships under his real name, but I've never found the time to reveal them. But I'm bored and I cannot afford to get into the Kelso Rugby Sevens unless I cheat. Okay, right then, what else? Oh, we've got Mr. James Ernest Stevenson, and I remember that a scrum half at Kelso used to play, and his name was Stevenson, and he died really young. And he used to play rugby with gloves called mittens, which had no fingers in them. And I don't know whether or not he's connected to the Stevenson dynasty that launched globalism in Monterey, but it's best to keep quiet about that linkage now. Okay, Northern Bank Limited, Mr. Neil Rex Clark, Sir David Fell, Mr. Leslie Bourke, Abercorn, the Duke of, Lord Rathcavan. I sent my message to Hillary Clinton and the Caravan Club the other day, because for some reason they associate the caravans with genocides in Latin America, and Travis, the socialist in Scotland, think that's really, really funny. Mr. David Grant Devonport, Mr. David John McPherson, Mr. Donald Robert Argus. A lot of these are old timers, which makes me feel as if all of my old mates in Kelso might be really dodgy. Mr. Glenn Lawrence Lord Barnes. That could be Lord Patton of Barnes, but one has no way of knowing in this dishonest day and age. And we've got the Healy's, and they are the rugby dynasty, who have joined me on Facebook, and they're very welcome, but they've not answered the "are you in the rugby dynasty" joke yet, and I'm then going to ask them if they run the Irish Mint. Penny, Target, oh, the Lorimers. I used to be in love with the Lorimer, but you know how inept I am in that sector. This is Sir Thomas Desmond Lorimer. Yeah, and the Lorimer that I was in love with used to live quite near the Lothian coast, where J.K. Rowling is, and the House of Shaws, and where my brother-in-law works in a massive munitions company, but is not able to live on his pension. Okay? And that brother-in-law is not on these listings, and I'm very relieved by that. And his children talk to me even at family funerals, which is getting rarer and rarer. Mr. Trevor Slater. We have Slaters in our community, and they are innocent looking blondes, although they're getting a wee bit bald now. Mr. David McLean Curry. Yeah, I've talked to you about Orca Fat Curries who worship at the Church of Scotland, but his adopted son is a really nice guy, and he's part of the football management team now, and I feel much safer with the world in his hands rather than the Curries who are associated with the secret societies in Edinburgh and give the sermons at the Church of Scotland. And this one is relatively innocent on this listing, because he's only crashed 4 of the companies that he ran, and he bailed out in 2008 when FRED Goodwin was defamed. There's the Gallagher again. He bailed out in 1997, but he's a golfer, and that is really, really sinister. Frank Graham Sunderland. Now, I may not have to get down on my knees, because this could be the Duchess who sent the colonies to the colonies and invented the knighthood concept that this guy's not prepared to use on this listing, because he's pretending that he's just an innocent local. There's the Hurst football joke again. That's the Interlocks. He's crashed 36 of 39. John Robertson, Wright. Weber. Oh, there was a Weber in the pop music sector. Yorbank. Trevor Slater. Zishan Hussein. He was in world history for a time, but he's alleged to have been strung up. But Greg Hallett on Skype revealed to me how they do that with a series of little wooden boxes, like Gog Murray up Roxburgh Street has got in his garage. That's not the Murrays that are associated with Dunedin and the massive frauds against the football supporters. He's much nicer than that. But one of the families broke their ankle badly on the farm last year. There's David Curry, who's not yeah, okay, let's not get into that again. And they've got a Graves, and there's Goodwin again. We've got Harry Dodds. Now that could be related to the Doddses of Melrose that wear the fancy trousers, and when they're commentating on the sport and frauds that are Melrose Sevens, they get my family name wrong. Yeah, so every time I hear Doddy talked about, I reveal what he's done to Scottish rugby with the rest of the BBC team and the asset strippers. And his trousers are still quite garish, and they look like the Bruins trousers on the Bruins joke about the Scottish tartans. Malcolm Conacher, Kitley, Weber. Where are the innocents? They must be further down. Everett, that's Michael Moore's Mafias, out of Hexham. Rogerson, the shoe shop. Yeah, well heeled, extremely expensive. I do my window shopping now exclusively at Lidl's. Mr. David Knight. They are part of the real estate empires up here. And no doubt way out west, that's the Wilkinson Sword family. There's Goodwin again. Oh, and we've got a Private Ryan. Moorhouse, Kelly, Irish linkage. There's Stephen Patrick Pinder. Don't know where the children are or who the owners of the cinema are now that it's become the Italian restaurant. Simpson. I mean, it's a Faraday. He could be an inventory kind of bloke. Van Zoyden, Peter John Coleman, oh, Mr. Thomas Burns, Mr. William Pickles. They were Orcafat too, but much further to the south, but they can easily be condemned along with the rest of the Lib Dems. Kitley, Shaws, there's Goodwin, right next door to the Slaters, but not in a geographical context. Robinson, Tony Robinson, where have I heard that name before? They visited, the Time team did, the Kelso epicentre, because we used to be the capital city on the bloody border, but they found it much easier to defend Edinburgh in secret societies than do it openly in armour and a series of cheap shot crimes involving people who are wolves in sheep's clothing, and they're now called the Black Douglases, and I think they vote for the SNP, which makes me really nervous. Moorhouse, Moyer, Allsop, Mr. Patrick Diamond, that's a famous name in the banking cabal. Massive pay bonus as he flees the country. Stephen Patrick Pinder, Shaws, oh, maybe not the House of Shaws. They were involved right up to 2003, and around about the time when J.K. Rowling took ownership on the Lothian coast. McManus, legendary people in the boxing sector, and I was talking about Larry King and caving people's heads in as covers for financial crimes, and the jailing of Cassius Clay only last night. Cassius Clay refused, by the way, unlike my dad, to go and fight people that he had never met on other continents. That's why he was put in jail in America for a year. And their biggest crime is the Watergate incident. Mrs. Bernadette Lewis. I knew a lovely lady called Bernadette from Glasgow, and her children are equally charming, but their mate Wally McAllister now works in the North Wales region, where that man led the war. I forget what his name is, but he's legendary for his sexual prowess. Lloyd George. And he's right next door to David Beckham and the false news team. But they interlock with Princess Anne on the board of the Olympic commissioning body, and the body that steals from the World Cup events more than every other World Cup event added together in the case of the London Olympics jokes in 2012. That's the war crimes, laugh at the war dread, laugh at the Chariots of Fire film, and then allow the investigative journalists to get bored because you refuse to talk to them when you're revealed as part of these interlocks. Right then, I'm really bored this weekend. Mr. David Knight, we've done him. Mr. Frank Graham Sunderland, Mr. Frederick Anderson Goodwin, Mr. Gregory Ross Hamilton, Cyril Hurst, Charlie Simpson, Allsop, Mr. Michael William Cooper. I believe that could not possibly be the people that talk to the people in the wheelchairs that run the rugby club about how things are in the tax havens in either Florida or Cuba, in no particular order. They own vast tracts of land But luckily my son and I, who visited it last week, did not get shot at. And we were openly viewed within the public eye of the picnic in the vast tract of land. Mr. Rolf Allen Cameron Lakin, that's a Cameron, by the way. I have no idea how close they are to the ruthless ones. Trevor Slater, Mr. Andrew John Douglas. Whoops. The Black Douglas is ever so nice, and he talks to me, and he's got horses, and he hunts with the Otterburn hunt across the bloody border. And I would kill to get in touch with the guy that keeps the ferrets and used to play rugby for Newcastle professional team. He's really spirited and he's proud of his working class background, and his dad used to chin people when they confronted the fox hunters. Okay, yeah, so that's a really good allegiance, because it means that the ordinary working man and the elites come together in their sporting interests, and I condone that, but the business side is a little bit filthy. And I'm bored. Mr. Gregory Ross Hamilton, that's the Rudolf Hess linkage. Mr. Ian Howard Gill, that's the gala winger, but that is also the director who interlocks with Princess Anne on the football commissioning bodies, and is the boss at Manchester United for a long time when Ferguson was in the news, and that's Fergie with her tits out and her legs akimbo. Mr. Keith James Carnegie, Mr. Martin James Moorhouse, Mr. Derek Stanley Orme, Sheeran, there's a pop musician called Sheeran. Ed, and he's a redhead like Fergie in the false news sector and the toe-sucking diversions. She was part of the profiteering team when they brought the Twin Towers down, but I like to dob on the local crimes that are covered up by the little girl that was kidnapped in Spain, and it's really sad to see that they have body doubles of her, and her dad is at the Social Security office for the whole of his life and gets to fish twice a week yeah, on the Inland Revenue's expense. Yeah, and then when you see the young girl that is the body double for Maddie, it quite sickens you, and they scuttle past my window because I know they have a conscience, and they pretend to be moralists and are now attending Jehovah's Witness with their dad, the fisherman. He's relatively decent and he's not all that clever. The cleverness issues and the intellect make me really nervous, because it leads to that peer pressure and it drives your own children into sins. I cannot see the relatives that I was unable to find when I tried to open them. Macmillans, Cole Hamiltons, Charles Marshall Loves, Colin Robertson Campbell, David Ritchie Robertson. Yeah, the black man joke is all over this transcript. Gavin Robin Slater, Ian Henry Barr. There used to be a lemonade company up here, like the Middlemases, part of the Tom jokes, and the launch of the charitable interests and the care homes that look after the disabled, with the disabled on the directorates, with the really early retired doctors and the people like Miss Tom who are the solicitors for the Borders Council. Some of the council leaders are cast into blindness. There's a Mr. John Cook, and I want you to see what happens when I try and open that. There's the Edie that is a charitable fundraiser and nearly drowned when he tried to swim in the Tweed, and he goes to support Chelsea Football Club with the other gillies. Yeah, and they put a goat on the riverbank because they think they're really clever before I get bored. Right then, let's see Mr. John Cook. I'm very fond of a man called John Cook, and he watches and admires the Das Boot video. I will show you the trailer to that at the end. Oh look, they know in advance that we're going to have trouble when I make this little click. So Mr. John Cook was engaged in FRED Goodwin's network between 1989 and 1992, and the John Cook that I know and love so well, his dad is a really ballistic political commentator in the Southern Reporter. Yeah, and I'm really fond of his sister, but she does not like me for some strange reason, and she accuses me of making her pay my mum for her rental, which meant that she could not get a decent education. Yeah, but I don't want to talk about sectarian divide. I want to make friends with all of my neighbours and my relatives, and even the man who lives across the road, who is the comedian married to the Hoik person who's now a millionaire because he's the comedian, and his name is Rory Bremner, like ballistic little Billy that was in the Leeds Freemasons and was a Scotsman when Scotland were capable of greatness. Yeah, I do not trust any of the football linkages now. It is just the laundering vent that Gordon Bowden and I described. And what happens on the south coast is particularly vicious, because that's where they launder the illegitimate children of the kings and queens. John Cook clicked on. Oh, this time we've gotten a result. Registered address, no address available. Rory Bremner lives in a tiny little village called Crayling, and I'm very fond of it because you can see the memorial to Waterloo from there, and all of it's a fucking stitch up. And when I failed to deliver a service for the local community, my brother-in-law gave me quite a severe lecture on that, and his eyes were glowing like the people do when they have to give up the ring in the Lords of the Ring movie. And he booted me ballistically out of his house. His children realise that I'm on the right side even after they gave up the linkage with Gloria Hunniford and the Irish cabal. Yeah, I will not reveal his name for fear that my sister gets access to this video over the course of time. Right then, so this is John Cook's Interlocks and Ponzi schemes, unless they've changed it. Oh, he's got, I think it was either 6 or 9 companies, and what he's got there are none. Yeah, so when I tried this the other night, it would not open. Yeah, so you're aware of company check now, and you're aware that the company summary usually lists all 6 or all 9 of the companies that this guy has provided a local service for. In this case, they've opted for obfuscation, like the editor at the Southern Reporter, because she's affiliated to the Prince's Trust, and they dare not reveal that the Prince's Trust is in league with the man Goodwin at the RBS, which is why he got his knighthood in the first place. So, do you get the picture? This is a John Cook. His year of birth is highly likely to be defrauded, because the whole of that is a total scam. Okay? Yeah, and it could be his politically correct dad, and that could be the reason why he writes to, on the side, the Southern Reporter, and that's why the Southern Reporter, when it was the Chronicle, might have been alleged to be a socialist vent. And they've got an underpass in Jedburgh, and you should hear the rumours about the drug trafficking that go on there. This is the Cooks that discovered the South Pacific, and my relatives are really proud of that linkage. I don't know any Magellans just yet, but I will find them. Right then, I'm still bored. let's take you back to Goodwin's friends. The Stuart guy, yeah, that's not the sectarian Stuart that had Mary Queen of Scots topped. It's the guy that was the son of the provost, and I highly respect him, and thank you for all of the relatives and in-laws for coming forward and talking to me openly. Okay, I'm going to get on to a touchy subject very soon, and the woman's ballistic, and she's alleged to be a dragon slayer in Border legend. But she worked for the Bank of America and is sulking. Right then, so there's the Hamiltons again, there's the Carnegies, you've heard of them. They built the Kelso Library, and in the Kelso Library you can see that the man who came from Northumberland, like Lord Stevens of Kirkwelpington, who was the Grey that led the armies and was in India for a while, he's a massive profiteer, and they've got a statue to him in Carnegie's library. And when I reported the sins of the Trident project to the people in the St Leonard's police force, it's right next door to the Carnegie places, which all commemorate Scotland's richest humanist before he became an American. Okay, they're short of funds now, but they advertise the sale of the drones for Detweiler MacDonald, and that is the Sound of Music joke. I've got that video somewhere, but it makes me ever so ashamed that I like it. No, it's not on public display for reputational reasons. Okay, so there's John Eadie Queen. Do you get it? That's why he had to go on his charitable function, and he has to support Chelsea now, like the Melrose players that lost the Chalmers man to the South team, south of the border. And I like Craig Chalmers. He's a very spirited amateur coach, and he has given the whole of his life to Melrose Rugby Club, and he's a really nice guy, and I hope that he comes back and puts his time back into Scottish rugby when we get back to decency. Okay, what else have we got? Oh, we've got the green issues. And the Greens are now the head of Rangers, if you had not noticed. Mr. Kenneth Charles Green. Bryce's. Oh shit. That takes me into the curling sector as well. And John Wayne is the leading Freemason for a large period of time in America, when Bing Crosby was their best fraudster. Mr. Thomas Burns, Mr. William Somerville. My friend's name is Somerville, but I'm not sure what her husband is, and he has left her in desertion, and she's struggling to find a new home that she can afford, and the vicious Glasgow councillors are hitting on her like crazy. Oh, she may not be Glasgow, I cannot reveal. Oh, and there's a Myers, like the spy who shagged me. But her name is Kathleen, and she might be a rape victim for Ken Clark, the minister without portfolio. So where have we got to? CGF number 9 Limited. That's the Mamba joke. Have you heard the song by the royal family as they paint the whiteboards? Yeah, it's everywhere. No one is decent until I come along and try to coerce them into it. Thank you, the people at the police station, for taking it seriously now, and for talking to me in your civilian clothes. You are really charming, and it is really reassuring for me that you still have the local jobs. Is the blonde now on rehab? Mr. Douglas Robert George Campbell Brown. Now there could be several convictions wrapped up in that single name of Ponzi scheme number 9 for CGF. And we've got Mr. Ian Drummond Corbett, who I think you've heard me droning on about before. From Monterey to Chipping Norton. And all of the ownership of Scotland's mountains jokes. Lorna Forsyth Macmillan. And then it takes you into the rugby sector all the time. And the golfing sector, Charles Marshall Love, Campbell's again, McGee's, Mr. Douglas Robertson Corner, Chikutus, who sounds like a mafia member, so I will not dwell on that. Active between 1994 and 96. 14 of 15 only crashed. Douglas Willis, there's the bars, the Lemonade dynasty again. There's Mr. John Cook. It's 7 of 7 are unavailable now for public scrutiny since I failed to deliver a public service in our region. And the man Fridge in the American football sector could be a cover for my in-laws. William Somerville, only 5 of 5. He does not sound like the bastard that would divorce his innocent wife. Here we have Alan James Stewart. Now I proudly remember when the Provost was Provost Stewart, and the people that put in this telly, and I'm eternally grateful to them, because I know that they now have a conscience. He had a horrible limp for a long time, the surviving relative, and he's married into a family that I will not identify, because their children and their brother have come forward and shaken my hand and talked to me openly in recent days. Yeah, he was a really gifted rugby player, and I will not take that any further. He has the capacity for greatness, and I think he now understands that this can no longer be covered up. Okay, I will not reveal the name of them, but they ran a lovely little sweetie shop. Right then. And it was not in the Dardanelles, which makes me feel safer. There's the Sheeran name again. There's the Shaws, Macintoshes. It's nice weather outside. CGF number 6 Limited. Yeah, this is the John Cook linkage. Slater, Edie's, Hamilton's, Hess's, Burns's, Somerville's. CGF number 3 Limited. It could be an exercise in arithmetic, because we've gone from 9 to 6 to 3. Yeah. Cole Hamilton's. It will be very repetitive for Ponzi scheme reasons. And my mate who works for the accountants and gives financial advice who does not understand the issue of a Ponzi scheme, and the cricketers and the BBC presenters who run them, that's Michael Parkinson and Jeff Boycott. Yeah, he has now come forward and looked a little bit sheepish with me, yeah, like the Lamb of God does when they're trying to raise the funds. Right, I'm still bored, by the way. But I don't think there's very much more to reveal, because Ponzi schemes just keep repeating themselves, and the trickle down that comes back to the people who run it gets smaller and smaller. But Fred Goodwin is now elsewhere. And nobody fucking knows where he's put his cash, because he's much cleverer than the locals, who are prepared to compromise themselves just for a cheap shot money stream. ADC Glasgow Limited, we keep taking us back there. The Macintoshes, which is the raincoat, by the way, the Loves, the Mafia, the Chikutos. Right then, Hookums, the Reeds, that's the Union Leaders dynasty, likely. Yeah, because the Union Leaders now are on the court of the Bank of England, and they have no shame. And there's the Nixon that Ali Moffat talks up, like the Armstrongs that are the first men on the moon in 1968, when they began to launch the fairy stories even out of the Chronicle. Yeah, when that man who's now interned in his bedroom, that used to be the editor at the Chronicle, I forget his name, but my dad used to get into fights with him in the pub when I was a barman, and it was really exciting because one of them ripped the other's tie off in open single-handed combat, and that was the days when the Borders were able to win the rugby tournaments every time they attended them, and the professional clubs that now win them were not even in existence. Thank you, Craig Chalmers, for your input to rugby for all of that time. And if you got trickle down, I will catch up with Kenny Evans in due course when I'm less bored. Let's have a wee look at Alan James Stewart's empire. 143 of 164 crashed, serving only, oh no, he's still serving, but his limp has gotten better, and I hope that those trends continue. Right then, Clydesdale Bank, that's the crashed bank. Insurance brokers. Insurance is run by Intel, and there's the Smiths. And I cannot see the links to the retailers, but I think Smiths is now what used to be Mingus's, and Mingus Campbell is a sad, sad bastard, because he works in the Lib Dems too, like all of the minor criminals, and they're quite happy to stick their ass up in the air on behalf of the Conservatives, who do the really big crimes but shed the blame on the Pickleses. Yeah, and the people that used to run the pickle shop are really innocent, but one of them, because I try and find out where she gets her cheapest alcohol from, went ballistic with me and chased me along the high street the other day, but I will not reveal their name. Yeah, because she's lovely in jodhpurs, like Camilla. Alan James Stewart. But she's getting on a bit and was unable to catch me. Alan James Stewart, registered address 163 Bath Street, Glasgow, United Kingdom Limited, where Kev Moore has his on the side businesses with Crawl as his security guards, and they're the killers that made me make that really short video before I became bored earlier in the week and just posted it on Facebook to intimidate people and to keep myself safe from the local mafias. Alan Stewart holds 8 appointments at 8 active companies, has resigned from 144 companies, and has held 15 appointments at 13 dissolved companies. Oh fuck. The longest current appointment spans 3 years and 1 month at Stewart Law Consultancy Limited. This is back into the war with Jedburgh Sheriff Court. If this is not a false products company, and I would not be at all surprised with that track record. Okay. Oh, he's got only minor amounts at the bank, which makes me feel much better. Year of birth 1957. Registered address 163 Bath Street, Glasgow, United Kingdom, G2 4SQ. Director ID, just to complete the circle, because I want all of this to stop, and quite a lot of it has stopped already. Okay? Right then. So his director ID is 904 996 462, and it's really decent of him only to have one, but I have not substantiated that statement yet. But I'm bored and I have loads of time. Right, McGregor's, Anchor, CGF number 9 Limited, that's the John Cook Company. Clydesdale Bank Asset Finance Limited, that has been crashed by someone. Yeah, and you can see how they all line up. That's called pump and dump. and the innocent little locals are not nearly as innocent as they make out. The sun has dipped a little bit, but the doves have reappeared on my lawn. My lawn, in inverted commas. It still belongs to the Crown. Moncrief, Warren, Patterson with 1T Limited. And the Warren is the rabbits joke, which makes me feel really, really nervous. Glasgow Opportunities, Vindex Nominees Limited. Clydesdale Bank, Head Office, Nominees Limited. It's in a relatively thin line and it's been crashed. Grangemouth Motor Group Limited. Those are cars that need petrol in them, and these are ordinary working men. Although he was the son of the provost, if it is the same man, I'm not prepared to commit myself to that, because his limp has gotten better and all of them talk to me and smile openly when we meet now. Yeah, that is God-fearing, and I thoroughly condone it, and it makes everybody safe. David Curry, if that's you, I need you to listen to my pleas. Saracen Value Trust Public Limited Company, that's the Saracens who get invited to the Melrose Sevens, who own the Stocks House before the Butlins Empire do, and the cricketer Philip Edmonds had a go at owning it as well, and for a long time Victor Lowndes runs it as a vent for prostitutes and bunny girls, and that is the joke about World War II and the pukas and the church roofs and all of the profiteering that goes on in wartime, but could not possibly involve any of our innocents. Thank you to the German people for talking interestedly to me, and for your friendship, and for remembering how our life has been wonderful, because everything that we took for granted has been taken from our own children now, and they are cast into a massive debt pool by these people, which is why I keep mentioning the rehab and suicide words. But the people who are involved with this director have come forward to me, and they are clearly physically healthy, and mentally they are stable again. I don't know whether or not that's part of the side shows, but I like them, and I've always liked them, and some of them are school teachers and they have always had my respect, and because they're not limping now and they're talking openly, they will always have that. Right then, some of the companies are anonymous, but can you see how they're lined up there and suddenly they're here and the cash is somewhere else? Which is why the boss at the rugby club that talks about the Caymans and Cuba and Florida is in the wheelchair. Right then, Park Road 152 Limited. My friend at the accountancy office, that is one of the Ponzi schemes, and that is the Park dynasty that discovered massive chunks of Africa and then stole it from the local people, who are the Robertson joke. William Duncan, HBJG Secretarial, Trojan Spark Limited, Stewart Law Consultancy Limited. I'd like to have a closer look at them in due course, but it gets you into a horrible spiral of repeated criminality. Yorkshire and Clydesdale Bank Pension Trustees Limited. A very short period of service before it disappears into Delaware. Clydesdale Bank PLC, Glasgow City Missions. They could be fundraisers in the stem cell sector, or they could be evangelists. Okay, so those are the things that he ran, and you can see that all of them have gone to the wall, which is one of the reasons. There you can see my accountancy friends, and some of the women are really charming, and I keep looking at their rear ends and they keep waggling them, and I think they realise that I'm up for grabs now. and I promise not to dob on them if you're innocent. Okay? Only 12 Ponzi's. Yeah? And it's kind of arithmetical. CGF number 3, CGF number 6, CGF number 9, and CGF number 12. Okay? The borders are really small towns, and we may not be able to get up into the trillions like the auditors at KPMG. Thank you also to the Edinburgh House people for telling me that you now have an honest owner and it is not in receivership. I will believe that when I talk to the woman. And I'm very friendly and I'm always constructive. I want to end it and to make the Borders tourist economy strong again. Yeah, Fred Goodwin has undermined all of that, and it is shameful that people align themselves with them and ruin their children's prospects. Clydesdale Bank Asset Finance Limited. And when their eyes gleam like in the Lords of the Rings film, when you get near to the truth, it is really, really spooky, because these are the people that you love most in life. Moncrief Warren Patterson Limited, 1T, like the new sheriff at Jedburgh, and my mate John, who's gone AWOL recently. Right then, let's go back. I think that we can stop there, and I could show you yeah, I could show you some videos. For some reason, and I don't know why, my in-laws always used to play this movie when we went to visit, and that John Cook's sister is charming, because she kicked my sister out of bed. I've told you that in stories before, but she saw me, even although I'm at war with the Jedburgh Sheriff Court, and she embraced me and cuddled me in the streets of Kelso, which is a conciliatory gesture, and I really like that, because I'm trying to change it, and I can only do it at a local level when I get really bored with Fred Goodwin. At the international level, Fred Goodwin is registered in Gogarburn, the ASYLUM in Edinburgh, right next door to the Belfinger bullshit company that ran the trams scam. That is the Gogarburn ASYLUM, the registered address for Fred Goodwin, the international criminal who many of the local people clearly have a conscience about. He's doing okay still. I will not take this any further now that you have stopped doing it and all of you have been shamed by it. And I miss the sweetie shop. Both the one in the Dardanelles, but the hairdressers there from the Borders College are lovely. And they pull me into conversation every time I see them. That's my weakness. And God lets me know that, so I only take it so far. And my one true love concept is a lie. Right, what were we looking for? We're looking for Das Boot trailer. Yeah, and you can get it in German. And it's a joke, I believe, about the Austrian Navy. Right then, here we go. And if you can understand the links to Fred Goodwin's cabal and to Michael Pinder and the Italian mafias, then please write to me and make it plain. But I would prefer to have a little cuddle on the pavements, and then you can make your confessions or your revelations. I prefer it to be revelations in the past tense, and I know that all of you are spooked by my power. But my sister still is on the battleground. And she's strongly affiliated with my wife in the Rothschild's armies.
We actually spent thousands of hours testing the kit without Google. one.
Wow, wow, wow.
Sprengwagen nennen wir das. Alles Leute von unserem Boot.
Lynn Somerville's still not speaking to me, and I dare not talk about these issues with her. So this is a joke about sinking ships in wartime, and we now understand that that is run by Truelove and Wilson as a betting scam. Yeah, and if you sink ships on the opposition side, you get cash bungs for it. Yeah, I don't know if my relatives are aware of that, but they walked away from the Borders Hospital because it was so corrupted. Yeah, and the nurses there now wear trousers. You have to pay for a nursing uniform, and I find that quite ironic. Yeah, and I play the police song about the red light all of the time, and the police is just a joke.
Machen Sie Fotos von einlaufender Besatzung, nicht von auslaufender. So das?
And this is the Von Trapp family singer's belly laugh, by the way, because he is Captain Von Trapp and he works for the Austrian Navy. Yeah, his home is in the region where Autobahn 999 is, which leads to Hitler's Nest, and the call out number for the Scottish ambulances who do not like to talk to me in the pub, and for the Scottish police who are warming to my campaign because they understand I'm trying to save local jobs and their futures and their pensions. And I met a charming copper who's retired in his 40s from Bozels, and that may be because he's connected to the mafias in Bozels, but that is something that is entirely speculative, and he befriended me because he saw that I was a capable rugby player even in the amateur days before Craig Chalmers fled from Melrose. It's really good that all of you are talking to me.
Weil sie dann Werte haben.
This trailer does not have as many explosions in it as the other one. You look for Das Boot on the internet for yourself and try and understand the affiliation of the innocent local people with that for all of their lives. It would be a shame, the Brits, to see mere boys give them hell. That's Hitler Youth, Tiny Rollins, and the last Pope before he was put in the Park Hotel near the Alba Lake in Rome. Yeah, yeah, that's Hitler Youth. The Detweiler MacDonald who now sell the drones joke about the sound of music. And I had no idea that my innocent local friends and Michael Pinder were interested in any of these things. And I'd love to meet Michael Pinder again, because he's an Aryan blonde.
Die Tommys müssen sich ja schämen, wenn sie in der Zeitung sehen, wer ihnen die Hölle heiß macht. Milchgesichter. Säuglinge, die an die Mutterbrust gehören.
Sucking Mama's breast, by the way, is likely to be a joke about the Virgin Mary, but I don't want to get into that because we're already into deep, deep water. And I may lose my boredom really quickly, but I'm going to take you back to this one. Yeah, when I get bored, I always remind people how fragile life can be. And my batteries are likely to run out. And my granny used to warn me that you must not drink seawater. Yeah, because these things get screwed up when you do that.
They studied the squid giant axon, and they recorded the actual...
If you drink a lot of seawater, yeah, the potassium levels in your body rise like that. That's why when you've got a prisoner on death row in corrupted America who's likely to be an innocent, that they inject potassium into their veins. That's the James Cagney stories that used to scare the shit out of me when I was a kid. But I now understand that my granny was right, and it's dangerous to drink seawater, and that allows them in the retail outlets like the Co-op that has been defrauded by Lord Sanderson and Bowden and people like that, which I should not talk about because I understand them deeply for ages already. Yeah, and I'm bored with it now. Yeah, that they sell potassium containing products that are the recreational drinks that all of our children's ingest now. And Bill Catterall would realise the irony of that, and his funds are ever so sparse. I want you to listen to the complicated nature of how God keeps us safe, removes the limps, controls our cardiovascular tone, and allows us to become decent citizens again and live a long and prosperous life like all of our neighbours. All of them. Yeah? Even those that are threatened with the loss of their own home because they're a menace to the Rothschilds. And that was not me that made that video yesterday on the Rothschild fundraiser. Honestly, that was Nathan Mayer Rothschild's woodcutter. He might look like me, but that's a coincidence. And the shrubbery will be doing okay as soon as you cough up your cash. But if you understand this video deeply, then you need to realise that there could be some risks.
Action potential in the squid giant axon, as shown here in the trace labeled EM. The action potential begins with the resting membrane potential here at about minus 65 millivolts. The cell is depolarized all the way to plus 20 millivolts or higher, and then the action potential returns back to the baseline here at the resting.
Professor Catterall is a fine speaker, and I would like you to know that I'm available all over the UK jurisdiction as a public speaker, and I've done it in Edinburgh House already, but I'm good enough to do it as a volunteer there. And it was really elderly people that are really fragile, and I believe that all of them understood my message, and many of them are looking much better already. Yeah, and some of them are over 100 and they're still going strong even at the Church of Scotland. Okay, so I've abated my boredom somewhat, and I do not want you to become interested in the mechanics of physiology, because it's a real waste of time. But you've got to drop the profiteering at the public's expense and let our children and grandchildren get what we got for nothing. Yeah, when FRED Goodwin was just a boy. Yeah, and when all of everything that we had in the labour movement was actually run by people that cared about the future of their country, and even the union members were loyal to their members, and the people at Grangemouth got everything they deserved from the owners of all of those vicious forecourt scams. That is you, Sir John Wood, and my neighbours who think he's a decent guy. Anyway, I must not preach on individuals, because it can lead to horrific outcomes, and Professor Catterall and I totally understand that. Bye. Yep. Bye. And Butlins is not in this story at all.